Hi, this is Dr. Desmond White. So let me tell you a joke that happened, okay? So Mr. A is a patient of mine. He had a polyp before, large one, I think 3 centimeter. So I took it out about a year ago. Now it came back for surveillance scope. Again, when I did the scope, I found some new polyp in the rest of the colon. So I had to remove it through the scope. We call it colonoscopy, polypectomy, take out the polyp. Every time when the doctor take out colon polyp, we are worried about two things. First, we are worried about perforation. You know, when we cut the polyp, if we cut too deep, we may puncture the intestine. But nowadays, we have very good technique called the cold snare. It is unlikely that we can perforate because we cut it horizontal, parallel, tangent parallel to the lining of the colon. So we probably won't perforate it, but we're still worried. The second worry we have is a bleeding. When we cut the polyp, sometimes the wound will ooze out some blood. So after the scope, we normally wait for a while. If the bleeding stops by itself with cold snare, normally they're fine. But we see they keep oozing out blood or spreading out blood, then we will do something. Either we inject or we put something called the hemoclip to stop the bleeding. Of course, if we put hemoclip for every single polypectomy wound, you can stop bleeding. But every clip we put in, it costs a few $100s. Okay, we don't want to spend money unnecessarily. So, we judge. If we think there's a high risk of bleeding, we put a clip. If we think low risk of bleeding, maybe no need. Okay, so Mr. A had a polypectomy done. He was okay, no pain, no blood. He went home. Then a week later, the wife emailed me, "Hey, Dr. White, my husband is passing blood in the stools. Is it a concern?" I think, of course it's a concern. If you touch blood in the stools, I'm very worried. Now, post-polypectomy, they can have bleeding. But the bleeding usually occurs immediately within the first 1 or 2 days after the scope. A delayed polypectomy bleed is possible, but very uncommon. Unless patient was taking blood thinner, they stop the blood thinner during the scope and they resume it a week later. Then sometimes they can bleed when they resume the blood thinners. But for Mr. A, it is unlikely because he wasn't on any blood thinner. But we take bleeding and tummy pain after scope extremely seriously because it can be very serious. Patient can die from that. So I called Mr. A straight away. Hey, Mr. A, how are you? They say, Dr. White, I'm working. Anything urgent? I say, no. Your wife said that you're bleeding. And Mr. A say, what bleeding? No, I wasn't bleeding. Then later on, I realized that Mr. E, actually, he told me the whole story. So sorry. They came for review recently and they told me the full story. Mr. A had a scope. There was okay, no bleeding. But he loved to eat grapes. So he eat this grapes. After that, the toilet bowl has some purple, red color stuff. I think those probably the skin of the grape. Their fiber, they're not digested. And they stuck on the toilet bowl. And Mrs. A will check on Mr. A's poop. Okay, we check on the toilet bowl. They share the same toilet, obviously husband, wife. So when she saw the some red stuff stuck there, she thought those are blood. Those are in effect actually a skin of a grape. So she straight away emailed me and said, Dr. White, I got bleeding. So I took it very seriously and she didn't tell the husband. So when they called me, Mr. was shocked and sort of, why you call me? I'm deep busy. Okay, I never passed blood. Okay. So they came today, then in front of me. So Mr. A told Mrs. A, nothing lah, nothing. Why you go and disturb doctor? They said, but anyway, I told Mr. A, if Mrs. A worried for you, you should be happy. If she's not worried for you, you should be very worried or very suspicious. Maybe she's doing something bad behind you. So it's an interesting joke, but to jokes aside, okay, when after a scope, if you have severe tummy pain, tell your doctor because there can be what we call a perforation. Or if you have blood in the stools, also tell your doctor. Even if you have suspicion of a pain or blood, do tell the doctor, let the doctor see you early and take action early, okay? Take action early for perforation or for bleeding. We can stop the problem right there. We can repair it, and we can save life, and we can prevent any serious complication. So to sum up, after scope, look out scope, especially after polypectomy. Look out for bleeding. Look out for perforation. If in doubt, contact your doctor, and your doctor will be more than happy to contact you to clarify. It's better to give your doctor false alarm. He act on it immediately, as in this case, Mrs. A, that we are sure that there's no bleeding, nothing, than to sit on a complication that become very serious and you act on it, okay? Earlier is better than later when we handle complication. This is Dr. Desmond White. Thank you.